The auction block. The sky above Zartel was the color of rusted metal, choked with ash and smog. The slave market reeked of desperation, sweat, and chemicals designed to dull the senses of the unwilling. Even for someone like Damon Wolfe, who'd seen the worst of alien war fronts, this place felt rotten. He moved through the crowd like a ghost, silent, armed, alert. The other species gave him space. Humans were rare out here in the Aurelian fringe, and most of the galaxy still remembered what happened when you cornered a Terran and gave him nothing to lose. Damon had nothing to lose for years now. He wasn't here for pleasure or profit. He was following a rumor, whispers of a noble Zanari woman offering herself for auction, voluntarily. That alone made him curious. But when he heard it was to save a child, something deep in him stirred. He stopped near the central auction block, surrounded by blinking drones and dispassionate alien bidders, gray-skinned Tylarians, insectoid Caesuri, one bloated rich Ordak with a translator perched on his shoulder. The auctioneer, a skeletal thing with wires instead of hair, raised its voice. And next, Lot 17, voluntary service, 5 standard years. Healthy, intelligent, fluent in 6 languages. High genetic compatibility rating. Suitable for elite service or high-grade companionship. A hush fell over the crowd as the woman stepped forward. She wore the plain gray robes of the indentured, but she stood like a queen. Her skin shimmered in hues of violet and silver, and her eyes, deep pools of gold, locked onto the crowd with pride, not shame. Damon recognized the tattoos on her collarbone. Zanari Royal House. A fallen noble. The auctioneer continued. Subject is Talia of House Siratel, former diplomat, offering herself in exchange for funds to treat her daughter's terminal illness. Condition. Buyer must pay release fees to the medical consortium before ownership is complete. A ripple of murmurs. Bidders were intrigued, some delighted. A noble maid-servant was a perversion they could barely resist. The first bid came from a Tylarian captain. 10,000 credits. 11. Croaked a Silizuri merchant. 15. From the bloated Ordak, licking its lips with a segmented tongue. Talia remained still, though her hands were clenched at her sides. 20,000, someone called. With override rights. Damon stepped forward, tossing something onto the pedestal. It clinked as it rolled. A small stack of golden coins. Real gold. Terran mint. The auctioneer leaned in, scanning the coins. Currency confirmed. Historical Terran sovereigns, pre-fall era. Equivalent value, 60,000 credits. Silence. I'll take her, Damon said, voice flat. No override. No conditions. Her kid gets the full treatment today. Talia's golden eyes widened just slightly. The Ordak sputtered. Outbid. I demand. Sold, the auctioneer declared, banging its electro gavel. Lot 17 belongs to the human. Transfer complete. Damon looked up at Talia. Come on, let's get your kid out of that clinic. She didn't move. You're not taking me somewhere first? She asked, voice cautious. Musical but wary. He shook his head. You sold your freedom to save someone. That's not slavery. That's sacrifice. I'm just a guy who paid the tab. They rode in silence aboard his ship, the Thornback, a retrofitted Terran gunship with patchwork hull and stubborn engines. Talia sat across from him, back straight, hands folded. You could have bought 10 pleasure servants with that gold, she said finally. Why me? Damon didn't answer right away. He steered the ship into low orbit and pinged the clinic's docking port. When I was stationed on Varos 3, he said slowly, a family ran out of their bunker during an artillery barrage. I hesitated. I was calculating trajectory, probability of survival. Too long. Shell hit. I carried a girl out of the fire, but she was already gone. Talia's eyes softened, but she said nothing. This time, Damon said, meeting her gaze, I didn't hesitate. At the clinic, Damon didn't ask for clearance. He stormed in, dropped the signed transfer and gold chits, and demanded the release of Sira. The staff complied without protest. They'd dealt with human soldiers before. The child was frail, her skin a dull shade of violet, eyes too large for her face. But when she saw Talia, she smiled weakly. Mother. Talia dropped to her knees and held her daughter close, her body trembling. Damon watched from the doorway. He didn't say anything. He just stood guard. Terms of service. The Thornback cruised silently through deep space, away from the filth of Zartel. Damon adjusted course toward a neutral trade port for supplies, then stepped into the crew cabin where Talia sat with Syrah cradled in her arms. The child was asleep, breathing easier now, thanks to the antitoxin cocktail Damon had paid for. Her skin no longer looked paper-thin. A healthy tint returned to her cheeks, and the low-grade fever had broken. Talia didn't speak as Damon entered. She looked different now. Robe loosened, hair down, her shoulders no longer held so rigidly high. But her eyes remained cautious, like an animal not sure if the hand extended was there to feed or strike. "She's going to make it," Damon said softly. "I know." Talia brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "You paid for more than treatment. They gave her stem therapy, the kind only nobility could afford before the civil collapse." He sat across from her, resting a hand on the table between them. "Let's get something clear," Damon said. "You're not mine. There's no collar, no obligation." Talia's head tilted slightly, eyes narrowing. "I signed a contract. I only bought that contract so no one worse would. It's a piece of paper, not a prison. You can walk out of the next port. No one's stopping you." She searched his face, waiting for the catch. "Why?" "Because I know what it's like to be used up," Damon said. "And I'm not going to be that kind of man." Silence hung between them. The hum of the ship's engine was the only sound. "You fought in the Terran collapse?" she asked, voice quieter now. He nodded. "Frontline combat engineer. Special operations. Then after Earth fell, I kept going. No home to return to, so I drifted." "You still wear your uniform," she said, nodding to the worn jacket with Terran military patches. "Yeah. Reminds me I used to believe in something." She leaned back, still holding Syrah protectively. "You're either the most honorable man I've met, or the most dangerous." "Probably both," Damon said, without humor. Over the next 2 days, the Thornback became less like a warship and more like a home. Talia moved with confidence now, inspecting the ship's systems and even helping prepare meals. Damon noticed how naturally she adapted, how she adjusted the oxygen mix to suit both their species without being asked. Her voice was steady when she spoke, but never overly familiar. She was still waiting for the moment everything changed. But it never did. When Syrah woke up, she asked for food. Then stories. Damon gave her a chocolate ration bar, and her face lit up like starlight. That was the first time Talia smiled, really smiled, in front of him. "You've never had Terran chocolate?" he asked. Talia smirked. "We considered it poisonous. Or a weapon." "Not far off," he said, offering her a bite. She took it. Her expression froze, then slowly shifted to wonder. "You people made this, and also invented the plasma lance." "Yeah," Damon said. "We're full of surprises." That night, alarms blared. Motion sensors on the outer hull had tripped. Damon was already moving, rifle in hand, before the second alert pinged. Talia stood over Syrah, shielding her with her body. Damon moved to the airlock and brought up the external cams. 3 figures in adaptive cloaks. Armed. Not pirates. They moved with discipline. "Bounty hunters," Talia whispered. "I was warned they might come. Someone doesn't want me free. Let me handle it," Damon said, his voice shifting into something cold. The airlock cycled once. Then the silence was broken by brief, brutal noise. Rifle shots, wet impacts, a muffled scream. Minutes later, Damon returned, a cut across his cheek and smoke trailing from his weapon. He sat down heavily. "They won't be coming back," he said. Talia looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. "You killed them. I warned them off. They made their choice. You moved like a battle-hardened Korath elite. I've fought worse." She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "You could have let them take me. It would have erased the bounty on your ship." "I'm not that kind of man," Damon said again. She moved closer, slowly, then sat beside him. Her voice was softer now. "I don't know what this is between us, but I'm starting to think you didn't just save my life." He didn't respond, but he didn't move away either. A debt repaid. The Thornback drifted in high orbit over a green and blue moon. Damon leaned against the ship's open cargo ramp, drinking recycled coffee from a tin mug. The planet below shimmered with peaceful light, untouched by the war and greed he'd seen so much of. For once, the universe seemed quiet. Behind him, Talia's voice echoed softly through the ship. She was reading to Syrah from an old datapad, translating each line into both Galactic Standard and the child's native tongue. Damon listened to the cadence of her words, the soft rise and fall of her voice. It had been 5 days since the bounty hunters. 5 days of silence, repair work, and strange comfort. When the story ended, Syrah's small footsteps padded toward him. Damon. He turned. Yeah, kid. She looked up at him, her purple skin glowing faintly in the ambient light. Mom says I have to thank you. For the chocolate, and the medicine, and for not letting the bad people take us. He smiled. That's a lot of thanking. Syrah nodded solemnly. I practiced. Thank you, Damon. You're welcome, he said, ruffling her hair. Anytime. Talia appeared behind her, arms crossed, wearing a cleaner robe Damon had offered her days ago. She looked less like the noble on an auction block, and more like the woman he'd come to know in glimpses, sharp-eyed, proud, and quietly fierce. I don't know how to repay you, she said. I didn't do it for repayment. I know. That's why I want to. Later, Talia found Damon in the engine bay, sleeves rolled up, repairing a cracked coolant pipe with improvised Terran tools. May I help? She asked. He looked up surprised. You ever held a plasma welder? She smirked. I was a Zanari diplomat, not an ornamental flower. I held worse than this during the insurgencies. Damon handed her the tool, and they worked in quiet rhythm, the kind that came when two people didn't need to explain things anymore. Between sealing joints and tightening clamps, they talked. She told him about her fall from nobility, how the Siratel family had resisted the Empire's shift toward authoritarianism. When the Civil War broke out, her house was marked for liquidation. Her husband died in the purges. She fled with Syrah and nothing else. I watched everything we built get turned to ash, she said, voice level. And for what? Pride? Legacy? You survived, Damon said. That counts. He shared more, too. About Earth's fall. About the Black Ops missions he was part of. Some glorious, some shameful. About the people he lost. How every system he landed in now was just a reminder that humanity had become a rumor. She listened without judgment. When the pipe was fixed, they sat on the floor, hands streaked with grease, too tired to move. You know, Damon said, you've done more than repay me. How? He glanced toward the hallway where Syrah slept. You let me feel human again. The next day, trouble found them again. It came in the form of a message beacon from the trade station they'd docked at for supplies. Damon downloaded it, then played the hologram for Talia. A tall, pale-skinned Zanari male appeared, dressed in ceremonial armor. His voice was low, deliberate. Talia of House Siratel. I am Lord Vorus, interim head of the High Chamber. Word has reached us of your survival. Return now, and your title will be restored. Your child granted full rights. You will want for nothing. Remain with the human. And we will revoke your name, strip your bloodline from the archives, and brand your daughter as a political traitor. The message ended. Damon said nothing. Talia turned away, her expression unreadable. He's not lying, she said. If I go back, I'm a noble again. Syrah gets a future. And if you don't, we're fugitives. She grows up hunted, forgotten. Damon swallowed hard. So go. She looked at him sharp. Is that what you want? No, he said. But it's not about what I want. Talia took a long breath, then walked into the crew quarters. She returned with Syrah in her arms. The child was still half asleep. Do you feel safe here? She asked her daughter gently. Syrah blinked, then smiled. With Damon? Always. That was the only answer Talia needed. She turned to Damon. Tell them this. I was never yours because of a contract. I'm yours because I choose to be. She kissed him. It wasn't dramatic or desperate. It was quiet, full of certainty. Damon returned the kiss, one hand brushing her cheek, the other resting on Syrah's back. They stayed that way for a long time. Together, the choice that echoes. The Thornback emerged from warp space like a shadow tearing through stars. Damon sat in the pilot's chair, scanning the empty stretch ahead. Behind him, Talia stood silent, arms folded, her gaze fixed on the flickering transmission beacon still pinging for Voris's last message. The threat had been real. The call wasn't just political, it was personal. Voris wanted control, not reconciliation. In the moment Talia refused his offer, the bounty on her head doubled. Damon had intercepted 2 encrypted transmissions from the old Noble network. Assassins were already en route. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for them. Sierra was sleeping in the crew quarters. Talia hadn't left her side until now. "I know what you're thinking," Damon said quietly. "You think I regret choosing you. No, I think you're wondering if Sierra will hate you for it one day." Talia exhaled, slow and tired. "Yes." Damon swiveled his chair to face her. "You gave her something better than bloodlines and power. You gave her a future that's her own. Free. That's something even Earth used to forget." Talia looked down. "And if I get her killed? If we both die running?" "You won't," Damon said. "Because I made my choice too." He tapped a command into the console. A set of encrypted coordinates popped up on the holomap. A hidden Terran outpost, deep in a nebula pocket, forgotten by most of the galaxy. Damon had once used it as a fallback shelter during Black Ops missions. "We're going dark," he said. "No signals. No tracking. I'll refit the Thornback, change transponder codes, wipe NAV logs." Talia stepped closer. And then we disappear. Until the galaxy forgets about you. Until you and your daughter can live again. You do all that just to protect us?" Damon met her eyes. "I've buried my squad, my home, my planet. You and Sierra are the first thing I've had worth protecting since the war ended." The hideout was a ghost of old Earth ingenuity, an asteroid-anchored station with failing power, dim lights, and a stubborn gravity field. Damon landed the Thornback with care, then immediately set about fortifying the place. It will be home for now. Talia helped, as she always did. No orders needed. No questions asked. She was different now. Her movements confident, her voice calm, even under pressure. This wasn't the woman who stood on the auction block. That version of her had burned away in fire and war. This woman was a survivor. A mother. A partner. They worked side by side until the hours bled away. Damon upgraded the defense grid. Talia rewired the life support systems with tools she hadn't used since her days in the diplomatic corps. Sierra slept through it all, safe in a nest of blankets and worn-out storybooks. Then came the breach warning. A small ship had warped in. No registration, no transponder. Damon saw the silhouette on long-range scan. Lean, sleek, designed for speed and death. A Korath-class hunter vessel. He looked at Talia. She didn't hesitate. "Take Sierra. I'll go with them." "The hell you will. If they see you, they'll kill you. They don't want her. They want me. I'm not giving you up." Talia's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't own me." Damon stepped forward. "No, I love you." The words landed hard. Unexpected, simple, unshielded. Talia froze. Then she leaned in and kissed him, long and fierce. "Then let me fight beside you, not behind you." The battle was brief but brutal. The hunter team breached the outer lock, armed to the teeth and overconfident. They didn't expect a human who'd survived 6 planetary sieges, or a Zanari noble who had memorized battlefield command tactics from 5 separate cultures. They were dead within 6 minutes. Damon stood over the last attacker, breathing hard. "Tell Voris," he growled. "If he wants her, he can come himself." The hunter spat blood and died. Later, Talia wrapped Sierra in a blanket and sat beside Damon beneath the old emergency lights. "I chose you," she said again, "but now I know you chose me too. Not because I was broken, but because I was worth choosing." Damon looked at the sleeping child, then at Talia. "Yeah," he said, "you are. What now?" "We fix this place up. We make it ours. Raise Sierra. Teach her to fight. Teach her to hope." Talia nodded. "Together, always." Out in the stars, Voris would rage. Governments would fall. New wars would start. But in a quiet outpost on a dead rock, a human and an alien built something stronger than politics or bloodlines. They built a family. And for the first time in years, Damon Wolf believed in tomorrow again.